But,
Can I ask
All right. Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone out to our Board of Directors regular meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order officially. And the first item of business is our land acknowledgement. And I've asked Erica to lead us in that. And then that'll be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. And Nicole will start us off.
We honor the first peoples of these lands by acknowledging that the area in which we gather is within the traditional territory of the Stillaguamish tribe of Indians. The Stillaguamish people have inhabited these lands and waters since time immemorial, and their ancestors have remained in this territory to this day. The Stillaguamish people have continued to practice the traditional ways of their ancestors of fishing, hunting, and gathering. The Stillaguamish tribe has had these lands and cultural traditions passed on to them by their ancestors who believed that everything has a spirit and that they are caretakers of these lands and waters.
We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have our roll call attendance. Madam Clerk. Director Diamond. Director Kelly.
Here.
Director Watts. Here. President Levesque. Here. Director Knapp. Here. Superintendent Sweet. Here. Thank you. Next up is our approval of the agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to change or amend to tonight's agenda? Or do we have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I second.
It's been moved by Director Watts and seconded by Director Kelly to approve the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk. Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Watts? Aye. President Levesque? Aye. Director Knapp?
Yes.
The agenda is approved as presented. And next up is our board organization. And we have a very special part of our evening tonight. It's our new student advisors. Dr. Sweeting is going to help get that started.
Yes, we need our complete team up here, so I'm going to come down to the team. I'd like to invite Maddie Van Beek and Alex Phillips to join me. Our new advisors. So Maddie's going to be our senior advisor, and this is going to be our junior advisor for this next year. And tonight we're going to swear them in, and then they're going to join the board up in front. We're going to start with Maddie first. Okay, and so Maddie, will you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Maddie Van Beek, do solemnly swear.
I, Maddie Van Beek, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington
and the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of Snohomish County,
and the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of Snohomish County,
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the Office of Student Advisor
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the Office of Student Advisor
to the Board of Directors of Arlington Public Schools according to law to the best of my ability.
to the Board of Directors, Arlington Public Schools, according to law, to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Would you like to introduce who's here?
Sure. Okay. I have my dad here, my mom, and my sister.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maddie. Just stay right there. We'll swear Alex in here. So Alex, raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Alex Phillips, do solemnly swear
I, Alex Phillips, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Washington,
and the provisions of the charter and ordinances of Snohomish County,
and the provisions and charters and ordinances of Snohomish County,
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office of student advisor
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of officer, student advisor,
to the Board of Directors of Arlington Public Schools according to law to the best of my ability.
to the Board of Directors, Arlington Public Schools, according to the law, to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Happy with you tonight.
I have my boyfriend, my very close family friend, and then my mother.
Well, we are very happy to have you join the board, and you can see your names are already there. So please join the board.
Or did you want to give?
I got it. It's good. Yeah. Thank you.
The arms are a little tricky, just warning you.
Yeah, they kind of slide back.
Okay, noise. Yes.
At the end, Maddie and Alex, I have the one that you'll sign at the end. Okay, the official. Oh,
Welcome, Maddie and Alex. We're excited to have two new student advisors. Very special. Thank you for taking the time to serve your fellow peers and the entire district. We appreciate you stepping up. And thank you, family, for being here to support. Next up is our approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes from July 14th, our study session and regular meeting minutes. Are there any changes, or is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the study session and regular meeting minutes from July 14th.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Director Knapp and seconded by Director Watts to approve the study session and regular meeting minutes from July 14th. Madam Clerk.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Watts,
Yes.
President Levesque,
Yes.
Director Knapp.
Yes. Those minutes are approved as presented. Next up is the part of our meeting that we reserve for our public comment. The voices of our community are very important to us, and I think we have some members of our community that have possibly signed up in advance to speak. We're excited that they're here tonight. Thank you very much. We have this process, so we don't get all embarrassed or anything. So I'm just going to read a little script, just so everybody's on the same page about our expectations for public comment. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of involving members of the public in its meetings. Anyone addressing the board tonight, whether it be in person or virtually, has agreed to follow the instructions for public comment and limit comments to 3 minutes. The board does not respond to questions during the business meeting in order to comply with the state of Washington's Open Public Meeting Act. The board's silence does not signal agreement or endorsement of the speaker's remarks. Depending on the nature of your topic or questions, the superintendent may ask staff to contact you to answer questions or provide information. The board president may interrupt or terminate an individual statement if it is uncivil or exceeds the allowed time. Each speaker will be given one opportunity to speak. So we're going to start with Teresa. Come on up to the podium. And thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. I'm Teresa Pierce. I have a second grader and a almost kindergartner that are going to SBLC this year, Still Valley Learning Center. And we just got emailed today that the school is under construction and they found some things and we're not unsure of where we're going to go from here. So we're just here to listen and hear what the board has to say about our school. I just want to say we love Still Valley Learning Center. It's such a special school. We love all the staff there, the principal, Miss Marsh, and yeah, we just love it there. So very concerned about what's going to be going on and hopeful that we find a solution for our school. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa, for coming tonight. We appreciate your comments. Next up is Chrissy.
Hi, I'm Chrissy Diedrichsen. I am in the same boat as Teresa. I also have a soon-to-be second grader and soon-to-be kindergartner who will attend SVLC. And we just came to get some more information to resolve our panicked minds, you know, where everyone starts to think about the worst. And so we thought we'd come and listen and hope that it turns out for the best for our kids, because we love the school, we love staff, we love everything about it. And especially having an incoming kindergartner, it's worrisome to think that there's not a space that they'll be able to go to learn and to experience kindergarten year. And so, yeah, we're just here to show our support for our school and listen to what will be for it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate you taking the time. Next up is Kylie.
Hello, my name is Kylie Carter, and I as well have an incoming kindergartner and second grader at SPLC. They actually came with me tonight because they didn't have anywhere else to go. And like Chrissy and Teresa said, we just love our school. We got the email today, and took me about 3 read-throughs to know that there was a board meeting tonight, and what's going on with the school is going to be discussed tonight. And so we hope that we can get some answers. We know that things are up in the air, and we don't know what's going on. But we know that our teachers and staff and principal are doing everything they can. And yeah, we're just here to kind of represent our school and be here. And, you know, that's it.
Thank you, Kylie. We appreciate you being here in attendance and for your comments tonight. If there's anyone else that would like to speak up? And is there anyone on Zoom that would like to comment? Okay, then we'll move on to the next portion of our agenda, and that is our public hearing. And this is the public hearing for our 2025-26 annual budget. It's riveting. And then we're gonna have, you're gonna tell us about things, and then we'll have a public hearing, and we'll close the public hearing. And if there's any comments, this is a great time to make comments about the budget too.
Oh, yes, hello. I'm here to present on the 25-26 budget. And we are soon to have the presentation up on the screen, and I will use the clicker. Yes, and this is the public hearing for the budget. That is an annual requirement. And we had an initial draft that we talked about in July, and then we bring it back for an official public hearing open to the public. We have advertised this in the paper that we would be doing this and inviting public comment. We posted the budget draft onto the district's website and made notice of that. And so now we are at the time where we will go through it again in detail. Our plans, the operating budget for the fiscal year 25-26. And when we're talking about budget, I always start with remembering, so that for all to hear, that when we're talking about budget, we aren't just talking about the numbers, even though that is my expertise, that is where I am talking from. But we're mostly also really clearly concerned about what is our primary goal, and that is about the students and student learning. So I always bring this as the first slide when I'm talking about our budget, is remembering our primary mission, and also the strategic plan, which lays out some of the primary goals that the district as an organization focuses on when it is doing the day-to-day operations of that mission. And the one that the budget most closely aligns with is Goal 3, resource stewardship. And that says we will secure quality resources, people, time, money, and property, and align these resources to support equitable learning and achievement for students by making decisions using an equity lens and data. So starting out like that, there is a little bit more detail within the strategic plan, Goal 3. There are a little bit more specific bullets under that. And then also part of our board policy talks about values that guide budget decisions. And this is in our board policy. There are multiple bullets describing what are some of the things we need to be thinking about when we are allocating resources and making the plans for next fiscal year. And if you take a moment to scan through that, I won't be reading every bullet for you. There are many priorities within that. So it just draws to mind that as we're making an approval of a budget, there are lots of things that have to be thought of, lots of priorities. And I also highlight that there's attention paid to the minimum fund balance that we would seek to maintain as part of that, and that it allows for flexibility in times of emergency. So the budget that the district puts forth is called the F-195, and that is a state-required format that all school districts in the state of Washington are required to report under this format. It's a very exciting name, and if you just hear the F-195, you would have no idea what that is. But it is the budget that all school districts are required to report under. It is 170 plus pages of data that is put out using OSPI, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, their software that they require it to be in. It's really detailed, so there's a lot of information in it. It is attached to the board plate within the board docs software that the board uses and is available to the public and in that way. But within it, and today as part of this presentation, I'll be summarizing for you. And we have 5 major funds that we'll be talking about as part of the summary. The General Operating Fund, the Capital Projects Fund, the Debt Service Fund, the Associated Student Body Fund, which is called ASB, and Transportation Vehicle Fund. And here's a quick synopsis of what each of those funds is about. It is legally defined that these are separate funds that school districts have. And the general fund is the most important one, as it contains the general operating day-to-day costs of everything it takes to operate and run a school district, aside from capital projects and these other funds. So the Associated Student Body Fund is a separate account for student activity, fundraising and things like that, extracurriculars, athletics, and things like that. Debt Service Fund is used to pay principal and interest on bonds that would be issued to finance school construction and renovation. We don't have any bonds, voted bonds outstanding at this time, but we still have a fund from the past. And the Capital Projects Fund for long-term school construction and repair needs. Those cannot be spent on school operations. So although that we have funds that are, you see some capital projects work happening outside at President's, that type of thing, those big major funds, that is operated through the Capital Projects Fund, and that cannot be used on pay for teacher salaries as an example. And then Transportation Vehicle Fund is the fund that districts are required to utilize to run any kind of purchases for new buses through their school buses through that fund. So let's talk about the general fund. As I've said, that's the most important. Here is a high-level summary of our budget to come. And the top part, the left-hand column, that shows you what our budget was as adopted last year at this time, August 2024. The budget for 24-25 is on the left column. And then the next column is the budget for 25-26 as proposed tonight. And then there's a column to give you what the difference is between last year's budget and this year's budget to give you some context of what those numbers are. And there's a column that shows the percentage change that difference change represents. I've also got the staff counts. So certificated employees are those employees that are teachers that hold a teaching certificate. Classified employees is basically everybody else, those that do not hold a teaching certificate and are teaching. So you can see the budget for the number of staff that we have as well. And then I've got the enrollment figures listed as that bottom chunk, that third blue bar down at the bottom of the chart. And that gives you an idea of the budgeted enrollment that we had for 24-25, the school year 24-25, and the actual enrollment that we had for 24-25 to give you a sense of that. And we were a little bit over what we had planned and budgeted for. So the budget for 25-26 is very nearly what we had in actual student FTE for last year. So the board adopted the budget, the enrollment figures that are utilized in this financial budget. That was adopted in January. And these are the numbers that the board adopted for that.
Can I ask a question about this slide, or do you want me to hold it until the end?
You can ask now.
I know you've explained this in the past, but I cannot remember the answer. But if I was looking at the budget column for 24-25, the ending fund balance is that 2644.
Correct.
Then the next column is the beginning fund balance for
Yes.
25-26 is a lower amount. Can you
Yes.
explain that?
Yeah.
I think I always get stuck on
That when
that.
you're looking at a beginning and ending, that it would match. And that is true when you're looking at actual numbers. So if I were to put the actual number for the fiscal year for 24-25, which isn't over yet, so I don't have that number, it would agree then to the beginning funding balance for actual in begin equals when you're looking at actuals. But when you're looking at a budgeted number, you would not always have exact agreement because what was is not now what we are planning for 25-26. So we don't use that 2.6 million as our beginning number because plans and real situation has changed since that 24-25 budget was adopted in August of 2024. So in that time, real life has happened. And so we are not planning to have 2.6 million when we start this year. We're planning to have 2.4 around in there. That is not something that I just make up the number, but that is what we estimate we're going to end with now that we're close to the end of 24-25. We can measure that with a little bit more specificity. So that's why we have a different number. So the beginning budget, as you've noted, would be a $2.4 million beginning fund balance. And that is an increase over what we started with for 24-25. And then we would, based on the figures that were estimated, we would show another increase for 25-26, coming in with about 3.1 million as our ending fund balance. And as our board knows, we have been working together to increase our fund balance to a more sustainable, appropriate level for financial operations. Okay, I'll move on to the key points. Again, I was already pointed out the beginning and ending fund balance, but that these are signaling that our spending will still need to remain very constrained and that interfund loans are likely still going to be necessary for 25-26, primarily in June. So the board is familiar with the fluctuations in our fund balance and the cash flow that we experience during the year. So that is a thing that we're aware of. And as we build our fund balance back up, it will become less and less necessary for interfund loans. So we're getting closer with what we estimate we'll have for 25-26, but we are not eliminating the possibility that we will still need to utilize interfund loans next year. So just include in there a summary page what our general fund levy is for the year. It is 13.796 million. And we have our capital fund levy, which is making the construction capital projects possible. and that is 6.492 million, and that is as approved by the voters in the community. And they're a very important part of our budget. So we're going to talk about revenues first, general fund revenues, and this is a pie chart showing the makeup of our funding sources. And the district and school districts in the state of Washington have mainly 3 or 4 main sources: state, local taxes, and federal dollars. Those are our major sources. State general and state special dollars, they make up about 80% of our revenues. And then local taxes, which is if we can see colors, the local taxes is that blue pie piece. 13% of our revenues come from our local levy dollars. And then local non-tax, which is like facility rentals, interest on investments, donations, fines and fees, things like that, field trips. Those are local non-tax and other funds, and it makes up about 3% of our overall budget of revenue. And then federal funds, federal dollars, they fund about 4% they are about 4% of our revenues. So that's the pie chart version. And the next slide is the number version. So whichever one you like, one or neither. In a budget of about 110 million, that is the size for our district, is about 110 million. And so here's the numbers, and you can see the local taxes are at the top, and state and general, state special purpose are on there. And you can see that we do have an increase over last year's budget. Primarily, that is an increase in our local levy dollars and the state dollars that we receive that have been increased because of our increase in enrollment and the increases that the legislature changes that they made in special education for one, but also the inflationary factor that they use to provide additional funding as costs grow, salaries grow, and things like that. So that is what's making up the increase for the most part in our revenues for the next year, for the coming year. And we do still include a note on there that tells you that other revenues is kind of a miscellaneous category down at the bottom, other revenues. There are some entries that we have to make for lease accounting entries and subscription-based information technology agreements that we do, that we have to account for a certain way, and they're book entries only, but we still have to budget for them. So there's $5 million as capacity in order to be able to capture those entries. There's an offsetting entry on the expense side as well. All right, I'm moving on to the expenditures. Here's the pie chart of expenditures for the general fund. And this is broken out by program. And the state dictates for school districts exactly how they are to track and code every dollar that is spent. So in this representation, this is according to the state-defined programs for school districts. And regular instruction makes up 52% of our budgeted expenditures. Special education makes up 19% of our expenditures. Support services is district-wide services that are provided to run a school district, basically custodial, maintenance, human resources, payroll function, accounting function, transportation services, food and nutrition services, all those kinds of things are district-wide. And then, and that's 18% of our expenditures. And then there are a number of miscellaneous other programs that are coded uniquely as well, and those make up about 11% of our overall expenditures. So for example, career and technical education programs, CTE, those are coded separate from regular education or regular instruction expenditures. Community services is another program that is our ECAP program, our preschool program, but also the facility rentals for things like our Burns Performing Arts Center and things like that, as an example.
Gina, why are we required to code instruction for like CTE and, career technical different than regular instruction?
They have a separate funding within the basic apportionment, and their types of expenditures are quite unique from a basic education classroom. And so they are segregated separately. There are separate laws that define what can be done with that. And we count enrollment separately for CTE as well. So students enrolled in CTE classes generate and track dollars differently for those.
I think that's good to know. I mean, I think, I think it's advantageous to the district to like really get those core dollars if we need that for primary education and then other funding sources or et cetera. I think that's good to know. Thank you.
So that's the pie chart version of expenditures. And now here's the numbers version. So you can see in context again, against the prior year budget and the new year budget that we're proposing. 109 million is the size of our district. And there is an increase. And you can see the most increase is happening in regular instruction and in special education. Most of these increases also have to do with salary increases as negotiated with our collective bargaining agreements with our teachers union group, our classified employees group, and negotiated salary in the inflationary increase as well from the state. And because 86% of our expenditures are from salaries and benefits for our staff and employees, it does create a significant increase in cost. When salaries go up, our overall costs as a district go up. And that is the primary increase, is due to salaries. For the most part. Here's another representation of the expenditures of the district. This time, it's the same numbers, the bottom number, 109 million. This is a different breakout of expenditure categories. Instead of by program of education, this is by object of expenditures, what they call it at the state. And again, this is defined by the state. They say exactly what you are to code in these categories. But you can see that certificated salaries, classified salaries, employee benefits, supplies and materials, purchase services, travel, which is a minuscule part of our budget, and then capital outlay. And there's the 5 million that I talked about that we budget for lease accounting entries and the SPITA accounting entries, the offset to the revenues that we talked about on the previous slide.
Gina, are we tracking, again, I don't have, sometimes you give us data that's a couple of years, but I'd be curious if the change we're seeing in these expenses is similar to what we've done in past years, or are we putting more into salaries now? Do you have an idea of what?
The percentages as a percent of the whole really have not changed drastically. But I would say that it might be slightly trending towards more in salaries and benefits than in the past. So 84, 85, 86, we're in that range. But it can be trending a little bit heavier towards the salaries. And in 109 million, 1% of that is $100,000. So it's easy to swing that with that. You get math lessons and fractions and percentages. Are you both listening to working those percentages in your mind? This is a required disclosure that we make on the materials, supplies, and other costs. We call them MSOC. And the state asks us to make this disclosure. This is what they say is an allocation for us based on our enrollment. And then this is what we're budgeting to spend on those items in that area of the budget. And what it's basically saying is that we plan to spend more on materials, supplies, and other costs than the state provides in their funding formula for the school district. we're pretty close with this picture. It's really not too terribly different. But keep in mind also that this is not all of the programs of the school district. It is certain ones that they require to be disclosed like this. And that we will continue to talk about how much our insurance cost has increased and that the state is having a hard time recognizing that for school districts and keeping up with that cost, which is not at the fault of school districts that it's increasing, but it has tripled in the past 3 years, and it's a large cost for the district. So pointing that out, this is a 4-year budget summary. It's a multi-year working forecast. The first year on the far left is 25-26, and this is the proposed budget that we're looking at to approve for next year. And then the working forecast is estimates for the next 3 years after that. And the further out you get from the very next year, the more volatile those estimates become, because the factors that are used in that are not set, they're not certain, and lots of things change that between now and next year and the year after that. I want to point out, as you're looking at this, you're probably seeing a ending fund balance that, while it has gone up and for next year, the year after that, it projects to be going the other way, meaning going back down. And then in the 28-29 year, it starts to trend back upwards. But the reason for that in this picture is that enrollment is at pretty steady level in 26, 27, 27, 28. We did not estimate an increase into that picture. So the increases for increased enrollment don't begin to show up until that 28, 29 far for third, fourth year out. So that is the reason for that increase. Also in the 28 calendar year, the current EP&O levy that we have, the 4-year levy that we have for taxes, that expires during the 28-29 school year. So at this moment, you want to talk about a factor that we don't have the firm numbers on. We don't know what that levy would be, and that the voters would have to approve it before we can know that we would have that. And the board would have to approve it as well before we even went to the ballot to ask the voters. So for the purposes of that 4th year out, I am just assuming that the levy dollars are the same. It's quite possible that we would be in a position to need to ask for a different levy amount than just a level flat levy. So that picture in that out year is highly likely to be quite different as we get closer to it. Mainly,
Just another quick question. When we're talking about projections, I know we as a board go year to year, we talk about, we get the demographer and get some information. Do we align with the city of Arlington in growth? Because in talking with some people, they seem to think we're on a trajectory for growth. And I've communicated that we're a little stagnant, like we're not looking at anything, amazing, and it's kind of status quo. So I'm just wondering, I just wonder why there's some people, maybe at the city side, that have a different thought of where our community is at.
I think it'll be really interesting to learn more from the professional demographers that we would consult with when we get closer to needing to have some different numbers. But for the purposes of this is really high level. We would keep it conservative,
Just keep it
stable, and we're looking at the roll up of kids running through, if they're with us as a kindergartner in 25, 26, and rolling them all the way through with only a little bit of added to the various levels where we typically would see growth. It's not based on statistical probabilities that a demographer might use, and also when a demographer helps us, they're really tied more into the developments that are happening, construction that's happening, city data, all kinds of data that they pull in and run through regression analysis, which I don't know really what that is. So that's a really high statistical word, but I've heard it used in that context before, and it's interesting.
Yeah, I think
AI is probably gonna play a lot of
Yeah.
role in things like that.
And we plan to, this fall, and we were originally, according to the master facilities plan, do it in 2026, but we're going to expedite it earlier, and the demographer will come in this fall.
And I think to Brian's credit too, I think he'd share with us each time is just the kindergarten level. So if I think we've said the birth rates are down or, yeah.
And that COVID also
Across the state.
has put data into the system that is skewing things in ways that may not be predictable to the reality, so.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Important to this, though, if we take anything away from this conversation and looking at this slide, is that it signals that we have more work to do in order to be able to grow our fund balance back to a level that, for one, would avoid having to do interfund loans and is a sustainable level, not too high, but not too low. And then we can say that we are fully recovered from the decisions and choices that we had to make during the time of the pandemic that caused us to go down.
I think Mary had a question. Are we anticipating regionalization factors changing at all?
Not in this model. And I don't have any evidence that we can for that at this time either, unless the legislature makes a change. And there's always talk about that and studying for that. It would be quite nice. We're right now, for our certificated staff, at a 16% regionalization factor, and that includes an extra bump for the fact that our teachers as a whole have a higher level of experience and education that allows the qualification for additional from the state, because it acknowledges that they are paid at a higher salary for those years of experience and their education. I'm going to give you a moment to breathe and ask any other questions before I start going into the other funds. Because we're going to talk about Associated Student Body next. And I'm going to dive right in. I'll also mention the ASB funds. There's an acronym that finance people use, and people that work with the Associated Student Body should know this as well, that cultural, athletic, recreational, and social is the acronym. CARS is what they use. So when they're talking about an expenditure against or a use of ASB funds, they ask that simple question: is it cultural? Is it athletic? Is it recreational? Is it social? And that's been a very good tool for people to use. So here is our ASB fund summary. And these funds support student activities and athletics. And I'll also say that these are not the only funds that are spent on activities and athletics. The district also includes in their general fund budget costs that go towards activities and athletics. But this piece is what is funded by the student body in the form of ASB card fees and athletic gates and fundraising and donations and things like that that are generated by the student activities and athletics themselves. And an important premise is that these funds are student governed and that students are involved in the design of the budget and that student approval is required for the use of ASB funds. And so we'll talk next about debt service fund. And we do not have any outstanding voted bond debt. But if we did, and when we did, we are required to run the payments for the principal and interest on those through the debt service fund. We do have one small non-voted debt issue that is with financing for school buses that we did back in 2017-18. So the debt, principal and interest payments that happen on that are still ongoing, and they are run through the debt service fund. And so that's what you're seeing there. In our capital projects fund, we talked a little bit about that at the beginning in the summary, how our capital projects fund is the required vehicle that we use for paying for the major buildings and construction, like the roof replacement that's happening out there. And the funds that are happening in the capital projects fund to make that possible, the money, the revenue, comes from the capital levy that the voters approved for the school district. So the levy money goes into the capital fund and is spent for capital purposes. And here is our budget for the 25-26 year. Some of the primary projects are around Arlington High School, the roof on the high school, gutters, and fiber improvements, Stillaguamish Valley Learning Center, building upgrades. Those are happening now. Capital projects usually spans multiple fiscal years based on how construction projects go. And President's Elementary roof, you see that now, but that'll still be ongoing and paid for in 25-26, part of it. And then post-middle school campus traffic safety is within that, as well as some of our planned projects. And then last is our bus transportation vehicle summary. So in this fund, we budget almost 100% to exhaust the amount of funds we receive. We plan to have the capacity to spend it all on buses and to leave some in the ending fund balance so that you still have funds available for the coming year. But mainly it's to purchase buses. The revenue that comes in there is mostly from the state funds that we receive. They give us a yearly payment that's intended to build up and be able to help replace buses as they depreciate or are used and get worn out. The buses that we have wear out over the years, and so the state has a schedule that they pay us on based on the number of buses we have and the age of those buses. And then there's a small amount that we transfer to the debt service fund out of the transportation vehicle fund that goes to pay for the debt that the district issued to buy buses. So it's kind of circular, hard to follow probably, but we got it and there's the budget for it. And just a quick on the timeline, that following the public hearing, the budget resolution would be proposed for adoption. That's later on in the board agenda. And that there are RCWs, Revised Code of Washington, that say that schools have to have their budgets adopted by August 31st. So we have a hard deadline on that. And after the board adopts the budget, it is submitted to the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, and they also approve it, catalog it, make it available to the public on the website. And that is the end of my presentation for you.
So our board members can ask questions and our student advisors can also ask questions.
Welcome to the numbers.
And if there's no more questions from board members, then I'm gonna ask for public comment. 3 times, as required. So are there no more questions from the board? Are there any questions or comments from audience members in person or on Zoom regarding this topic? If so, please raise your hand. Not seeing any hands raised. again. Are there any questions or comments from audience members in person or on Zoom regarding this topic? If so, please raise your hand. Still seeing no hands. For the third time and final time, are there any questions or comments from audience members in person or on Zoom regarding this topic? If so, please raise your hand. Hearing no questions from anyone, I declare the public hearing closed. Thank you, Gina. Approval of the 25-26 annual budget is on the agenda later under new business. So next up on our agenda is our consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda for further discussion? Or is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Nat and seconded by Director Kelly to approve the consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Watts,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Yes. Thank you. The consent agenda is approved. Next up is our new business portion of our meeting, and the first item there is our 25-26 Arlington School District number 16 annual budget with a resolution number 2510. And welcome back, Gina, our Executive Director of Financial Services. So before you is a resolution, and this is an action item. And Gina, do you have any more things to say about the budget or the resolution?
Just that this is the official authorization of expenditure authority for the district. It is appropriation authority as a whole for each fund for the district. And it refers to the F-195 that I just summarized for you in my presentation. And it also refers to the 4-year forecast, which is a requirement for school districts to provide. So you can see the dollar amounts within this, within the body of it. Further down is the fund, and those are the numbers that we just looked at in the presentation. And it also just mentions that we, advertised in the newspaper according to the laws and things like that. And that's it.
Any questions? Or do we have a motion to approve resolution 2510?
I make a motion, we approve resolution 2510, 25-26 Arlington School District annual budget.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Director Kelly and seconded by Director Watts to approve resolution 2510, 25-26 annual budget. Madam Clerk.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Watts,
Yes.
President Levesque.
Yes.
Director Knapp.
Yes. Resolution is approved as presented. Thank you, Gina, for your careful details. And next up is Gina Zutner's back
More fun.
with our financial highlights of our current budget.
Move to the podium.
How are your feet? Are you okay?
Here we are. Get right to it. So we just got done talking about next year's budget, but we're still living in the current year. Our fiscal year runs September through August. So every month I'll come to the board, as I've been doing, and share some of the financial highlights that are on the budget status report that is presented to the board each month in the consent agenda. So the details, much more detailed report is contained in the consent agenda. And this financial highlights of current budget that I come and speak out loud to the board about is just giving some of the highlights. So we're well into the fiscal year, and we've been talking about this each month. So the board is well familiar with some of the things that I share as the main points in this. And I'll get started. So first we'll talk about financial health of the district. We have some very good positives to celebrate, and so we will always want to come back to those things because our challenges are great as well. But we're going to start with that positive. We have the community support, we have educational programs and operations levy, and we have a capital levy. Those are really key and critical components of the health of the district
The community support that is evidenced by the approval of those is massive. We are in compliance with kindergarten through third grade and physical, social, emotional support staff ratios. This is something the state imposes upon school districts within their funding formula, that then school districts have to have staff at certain ratios, or the district will take, or the state will take money back from the school district. We're in compliance, so this is a good thing for our financial health. And we have had enrollment growth. It's very small percentage, so 59 students is great, but it is almost only a 1% growth. So if you talk about growth in school districts, people in the role of talking about enrollment would probably say it's flat enrollment. If it's only 1%, it's a flat, you're pretty flat. You have to be more than that, maybe 3 to 5% growth to be in a growth trend. But we're good with having growth and not going backwards. So Arlington is an awesome place to be, and our kids, we have 59 more students than we had estimated. Transportation safety net funds are something that we received from the state to help with the cost that is not funded fully by the state for the high cost of transporting to and from school some of our special needs passengers or students experiencing homelessness that creates longer distance patterns out of the district for transportation. There's a higher cost to that, and the funding formula doesn't acknowledge it, but they attempt to help with the safety net funds, and we did qualify for 84,000. Our cost is much more than that, but 84,000 helps. And then special education safety net funds are also a really important thing to be able to have, and we're waiting for a finalization of exactly how much we will receive, but we believe we're going to receive somewhere between 700,000 to $1 million in safety net funds for special education costs. And those are for more extreme, higher cost placements for students with special needs. And then our fund balance and OSPI financial indicators score is projected to increase for the 24-25 fiscal year. So those are financial positives. Our challenges, along with many other districts across the state, we're facing financial difficulty as there are flaws in the state funding model, and they are becoming more and more evident. So they made a bunch of changes and improvements, great things, eight years or so ago in the McCleary case that happened, but it did not fix things. It delayed some unintended things in the formula. And those are really becoming more and more evident as the years go on. OSPI financial indicators tool lists that 18 school districts are in what they would call financial warning. Now that is not binding conditions. If anyone has heard those binding condition terms used in other school districts, that is not what that tool is indicating. But it does say, warning, you've got some data in your numbers that is not at the spot that we would hope it would be. So they tag those as financial warning. 18 school districts out of 295, 96 school districts. But if you compare that number to many, 6 years ago, there were only 3 districts in a financial warning type of a situation. And then also the state auditors put out a financial intelligence tool, and it takes similar data, looks at different measures, but they show that more than 75% of the 295 Washington state school districts have cautionary or concerning financial indicators. So we are no different, and you could see that in our forecast as well that we just talked about. State funding gaps for our district, it's most prominently evident in our special education area. But there are other programs within the district where the cost to provide those services is not something that is fully funded by the state. Their model for funding it doesn't actually keep up with what the true cost of providing that service is. Whether it's competitive salaries, paying for gas, diesel, food, contract services, they're not keeping up. And that would be in the area of transportation and material supplies and other costs. So challenges were we've made budget reductions in the 23-24 fiscal year. We made additional budget reductions in 24-25. And it's hard to live within those changes. The reduced costs come with a cost of their own, both financial and in human cost. And we're working to rebuild fund balance, and it is difficult. Interfund loans have had to be made to get through certain of the low months, and especially during June, which is a low month for the district. And then there's uncertainty around federal funds. So here is the fund balance trend showing from month to month to month what our fund balance is at. And it's got 4 years worth of history on there. And so the top line, the pink line, is back in 21-22. And the darkest blue line at the bottom is this current fiscal year. And the fund balance moves around following a similar pattern from month to month. But we are at our lowest that we have been for 24-25. And June is always a low month. So you can see there that we are following the trend. We are starting to eclipse last year, where we're starting to come back up. It's what we have projected that we would for the 24-25 year. We should end around somewhere in the middle between 2 million, a little over 2 million. And that's why we're using a 2.4 as our estimated budgeted start for 25-26. We would be even a little higher in June for our fund balance, but the state ran into a problem with their appropriation authority. And so they short paid, they let everyone know and communicated to school districts that they would be doing this. They short paid the districts across the state for the month of June. And that said, normally your allocation would be this much for the month of June, but we're going to take 400 of it and hold it back because we're not paying it to you. We'll make up for it in July. So we'll still get everything we were supposed to get. It's just delayed.
You know, my observation is in looking at 22-23, that declination of I think it was from November to say March, that's pretty it's pretty significant, I think. And I'm looking at what we have this year and the evenness of that, I just think that's incredible. You know, it didn't take, right? It didn't follow the same kind of trajectory that even in 21-22 was down, that kind of flat, but I feel like the district kind of maintained that fund balance for several months. And I'm not sure what you would really attest that to, but I think that's good that we did not see.
Spread it.
If
there were things that we could spread so that we would not need to have to, yes. So for example, if we were to pay an invoice, not having, salaries are pretty much that.
Right, absolutely.
But if we were to pay an invoice, typically we received it, we would get that processed for payment pretty quickly, as fast as we can. Maybe it's not due to the end of the month, but we paid it mid-month. In the past, we maybe paid it quickly.
Oh, gotcha. Just kind of.
And in that period, we were looking at it very carefully to make sure if this isn't actually due, we're gonna wait and pay it more in alignment with the actual due date. And so that was part of that flat.
So a conscious practice of funding.
In the 23-24 year.
Yeah. Managing the cash
We
flow.
were getting really close. Yeah. And we had authorized interfund loans during that period and did not have to utilize them until we went, is that below? Yeah. So we were trying to stay away from having to utilize interfund loans for as long as possible and to minimize those interfund loans. That is, I believe, the last slide. Oh, other than to reiterate the interfund loans that we did take and that those are fully repaid. The ones that we did November through February came to a cumulative total of 1.5 million. And we have fully repaid those plus interest, the interest that we would have earned in the capital fund, we have repaid. And then the next round for June, as we said, that June's that low month, that is our lowest month. We had an interfund loan of about 2.2 million. And as of the end of July, that has actually been repaid. So we're on track to not have anything outstanding as far as any of the interfund loan between funds. And that is the end, other than I continue to keep this slide in because anytime we're talking about multiple years of fund balance, it's important to remember some of the preconditions that the district was under when we got to where we are. So I won't go through that, but it's there and it's available in your online packets. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Gina, for keeping us informed. Next on the agenda is our public information program report. We'd like to welcome Gary Sable, the Director of Communications.
Good evening, directors. Are you ready?
Getting confused with you.
Oh. For a safety event. Hey, good evening. Gary Sable, Director of Communications. This is a quick report about the Public Information Program Report. Next slide, please. Okay, so for policy 4001, we are required to have a communication program, if you will, to communicate between the district and families and community members. And we do this in a number of ways. The first way is the superintendent's annual report. This is published every year, similar to the school performance reports that are sent out to families every year. We also utilize press releases, even though media is contracted in the traditional sense, but we do still do press releases. These are the stories you'll see out on social media and things like that. Every now and then we do get media coverage. That's another way to communicate what we're doing in the district to our stakeholders. Once a year, we do an annual survey to families, staff, and students. Again, another way to get information really from them on how the district is doing. We started many years ago, Dr. Swing started the Voices Opportunities, and that's to get feedback from students, staff, families, community members, most of those things. And as you may know, this summer we roll out a new website. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do so. And an app. So if you haven't downloaded the new Arlington Public Schools app, it's a great resource. It's another way to communicate. So all these bullet points are all different ways that we communicate with folks. Any questions about the previous slide? Okay, let's move it on. Thank you. The other parts of policy 4001 talk about how the district for different elections that we hold, they have to be informational. We can't endorse political campaigns. That's to be very informational, that sort of thing. Another part of this policy talks about how discipline data is shared annually with the Advisory Council for Education, the ACE Committee. And that's pretty much all of policy 4001. Any questions about policy 4001? Okay. So as is policy 4040, public access to district records. And this is more just a snapshot, just to show you the number of public records requests we get in the district. And as you can see, it started, several years ago, 23 per year. It's skyrocketed since then, 51 in 2022, 75 in 2023, 79 last year, and we're already at 76 just in August. So it's definitely increased quite a bit. And I've said this many times, but the Next Request tracking software is a game changer. It helps a lot when we're processing a lot of these records requests. So that's the different policies for, yes, Mary.
I just want to clarify, this is calendar year, not school year.
It runs, For our retention policy, it runs calendar year, not school year, correct?
January through December.
Yes, yeah, so January 1 through December 31, exactly. Yep. I think that's it. Any questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for that very brief report.
Yes, that's very brief.
Conciseness. Next up is our resolution 2511, adoption of the Arlington Public Schools Hazard Mitigation Plan. And we'd like to welcome up Brian Lewis, our Executive Director of Operations, and Ed Aylesworth, our Director of Nutrition and Sport Services. And this is another action item.
Okay. Good evening, directors. Thank you for letting us be here tonight and speak with you about the hazard mitigation plan. I'm glad to have Ed Aylesworth with me tonight. He's going to do the bulk of the speaking regarding the plan. But this is a renewal of a plan that we've submitted in the past to the State Department of Emergency Management, ultimately FEMA as well. And this helps us identify and prepare for natural disasters in the district. Ed's going to start speaking now about why we're doing it.
So that was the same question I asked when I was approached by OSPI on doing this plan. Why would I want to do that? And two basic reasons. One is with a natural disaster, you have exposure to this disaster, whatever it is. And if you can mitigate that exposure, then you can reduce the potential loss of life and limb and damage to your assets. So one, we want to preserve our assets and persons. And then the second one is if we have this process and it's approved by FEMA, then we have access to FEMA emergency funds, I wouldn't say immediately, but faster than others that haven't got through the process. So that gives us assistance at a quicker rate. So those are the whys, those two reasons.
So this is the process that we're engaging in right now. The items that are in green are completed and the items that are in red are pending. So what's waiting for us right now is the school board resolution and approval, and I'll show you the resolution in just a moment. State review, which would be the State Department of Emergency Management. Once they're done, it's bundled together with all the other plans from across the state and submitted to FEMA for their review and approval. What we have done is Ed's updated the plan. It's a document, I don't know how many pages.
200 plus.
200 plus pages. Right now it's on our website if you were interested in taking a look at it. We've been meeting with stakeholders both inside and outside of the district and gathering comment from those folks as well to help us inform the plan. We have received some community input and some input from those that we've reached out to. Here's the history of our experience with FEMA plan.
So as I stated back 2015, OSPI sent out a request for invitation to participate. And so I went with the WISE and we agreed to take a look at it. So I worked closely with some folks from OSPI and we built the program. They provided a great template for us to go from, and then we individualized it with ourselves. So it was approved in 2017. We're supposed to renew every 5 years, but we got into COVID and other things, and so we're a little further behind that 5 years, but we're ready for a renewal, so we're going to update it and get that update approval process, and we'll be good to go again.
So this just shows a picture of the plan or the links to the plan on the district website. The folks that we've reached out to for input or comments are regional and municipal agencies like the City of Arlington, community members and district staff, primarily via eMART. Ed's going to talk about the 6 hazards that were identified in the original plan.
So these are the 6 major hazards, natural hazards that we worked with to start with. Got the earthquake, tsunami, volcanic, flood, wildfire, and landslide. And so we looked at each one of those as part of our potential disasters and determined what is our exposure to these. And so what it came out to be was we have earthquake potential. We all know that, we've had them, we've experienced them. So where are we at with that? Landslides, post is next to a cliff. So that is certainly an exposure there. As I was reviewing the state's hazard mitigation plan, they've added a few things like extreme weather and wildfire smoke. And I don't know if you have anything else that you might want us to look at in addition to that. But we have added those because we're seeing atmospheric rivers, we're seeing windstorms, we're seeing heat, a lot of extreme weather conditions now that we haven't dealt with before. And so we're concerned about safety of our workers, our students, and staff and all of that. So wildfire, of course, we're lucky this year so far, but we do have air quality systems set up in place so we can monitor locally and be more proactive.
So you see volcanic is no longer on this list, and the primary reason for that is that the mountain, the volcano that we're exposed to, and what that could result in is if it were to erupt would be a lahar coming down the Stillaguamish River, but we're elevated high enough to not be in the path of a lahar.
Is flooding in the extreme weather?
Flooding is a separate one, and we have exposure to it because, let's see, we have a potential in the lowlands and whatever, and Post and Eagle Creek are within the flooding zone of the Stillaguamish River, but because of the height, we don't have exposure, so the risk is non-existent for that. So as far as our buildings, our schools and other, we don't have risk.
Could be disruptive.
Right. I was thinking for busing, but maybe that's not.
That's not what we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, yeah. Getting the kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to show you the resolution now. But basically, this is a resolution of the board expressing agreement with the importance of the plan and submitting the plan to the state for review, FEMA for review. So that's what we're asking for tonight is that the board adopt this resolution approving moving the plan forward.
So I'm sorry, I think I'm missing something. So what does this mitigation plan mean? That if one of these disaster happens, then we will have access to funds or help from FEMA. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, for recovery. And in the past, FEMA used to offer grants for preparedness.
Okay.
So if we didn't, if we were to apply for a grant opportunity that FEMA had made available to us, and we did not have this plan, then we may be excluded from it.
So this is a streamlining, I think is what you said. Okay, great.
Is that it's also planning. So we look at these and then we have action plans ourselves. So
Okay.
for example, with Post on the last one, it was, okay, we're close to a cliff. What's our exposure? So the plan was to bring in a geological survey people, and they came and they ran core samples.
And
they said, this is the best kind of dirt you could have if you're gonna be this close to a cliff.
okay.
So we realized that our exposure to that risk was a lot lower than we anticipated. So that's the kind of, it also is a plan for reducing the exposure as well as streamlining the FEMA.
Another specific example about Post is that part of that geologic survey, they looked at the stability of the slope and advised us not to cut the trees along the edge of the slope to keep them in place, even though to us it appeared like it could generate a landslide hazard just by the trees falling off the cliff.
And the weight.
Yeah.
So they like the trees to help stabilize the cliff? Yeah.
Can we look at Camp Prairie with the Burn Road?
That was part of it originally. But it was determined at another point that there's not been any slides in that area. So that was taken off the list. LiDAR is a great tool. Never looked at it. So nothing there.
Any other questions or good questions? This is an action item. Ms.
there a motion to approve resolution 2511, adoption of the Arlington Public Schools Hazard Mitigation Plan?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2511, adoption of the Arlington Public Schools Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I'll second. It's been moved by Director Watts and seconded by Director Knapp to approve resolution 2511, adoption of the Arlington Public Schools Hazard Mitigation Plan. Madam Clerk? Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Watts?
Yes.
President Levesque? Yes. Director Knapp? Yes. Thank you. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And just don't go anywhere, Brian. The next one is all yours too.
Okay.
Adoption of resolution 2512, declaring an emergency, waiving requirements of RCW 28A335190 and RCW 3904 in response to the emergency. We'd like to welcome back Brian, our executive.
So you can see the title of this presentation is Stillaguamish Valley Learning Center Facility Rehabilitation. And that's an adaptation from the original project name, which was Stillaguamish Valley Learning Center Miscellaneous Improvements. And you'll see why we titled it that at the start of the project and why now it's changed. So I'm going to give you a bunch of information here about the facility and the project and the planning and all the elements that went into to the point where we had a discovery in July about a deficiency on the site. So Stillaguamish Valley Learning Center, SVLC, is a collection of portable buildings on the campus, Post and Eagle Creek. They share campuses. In 2025-26, we're projecting enrollment for the program at 256 FTE, and that's for the Stillaguamish Valley, or the SVLC Alternative Learning Experience Program, and ALP, which are housed in the same facility. The Apple ECAP, which is a program that's also on site, they have a total of 80 students. These are students that are not reported to OSPI. These are pre-K students, and their funding is provided by Snohomish County and the state of Washington. We operate the program under a contract for Snohomish County. So that comprises about 80 students split between two sessions, AM and PM. They go half day. And the portables that they occupy are P10, P8, and P4. The other portables are devoted to the SVLC program. We have about 11.5 FTE total. That's certificated and classified budgeted for 2025-2026. This is an excerpt from our study and survey document, which is an inventory of the district's properties. I provided this just for some more information about the square footage of the portables on site, the acreage of the site, and how many buildings are there, and what's housed in those buildings, what programs are housed there. This is a very old photograph. It's going to change with our study and survey update coming up soon. So in 2003, when we were formulating the facilities master plan, we identified projects. The project that was originally underway at SVLC as a high priority, and it was part of the 2024 capital levy request to the community. What that project was, replacing roofs on 4 of the buildings, replacing what we thought were selected areas of siding due to rot and decay. It's going to be a lot more than that. It's going to be almost every building on the site. Demo and rebuild the interior of Portable 11, which is the bathroom portable at the school. Replace hollow core doors at some of the buildings. Replace all the wooden ramps with new aluminum ramps. Replace 20 heat pumps. Each of the buildings have 2 heat pumps that provide heating and cooling and ventilation for the interior. Improve site lighting and drainage, and do some work on the parking lot to preserve it. So this was the original scope of work. All these things will still be done. They just might not be done in the order that we had anticipated them being done. We began planning for this project in October 2024. We went to bid in April 25, awarded a contract to Summit Construction in 2025, in May of 2025. The original contract amount was $877,000, which was less than what we had anticipated by about $200,000. And our original substantial completion date was August 29th, so coming up pretty soon. So what we discovered in mid-July was that there was structural dry rot endemic throughout the buildings on the campus, with one exception, that's Portable 6, which was amazingly well preserved. And there was also mold on and I'm going to show you where in just a moment, because I want to make it clear that the mold was not inside of the buildings. It was up to the point of the barrier between the exterior and interior, but it was not inside of the buildings. Take a moment here to go through the schematic. So this is a cross-section of the wall, and from exterior to interior, you'll see there's some trim board, T111 siding, real faint dashed line, which represents a vapor barrier or weather barrier, OSB sheathing, insulation, interior drywall, and a tackable wall panel, which is a covering that we put, it's like that material behind you, so teachers can put stuff on the walls inside of the buildings. Now this is the ideal. This is not what we encountered. Because of the vintages of the buildings themselves, and because I'm ascribing this to movement of the buildings that created opportunity for roof leaks to occur, even though we had replaced 6 roofs in the past. Some of the mold that we found was active, some of it was not. I really can't tell you the percentage-wise of what was active and what was not, but some of it was definitely active. Some of it had only penetrated to this level, the sheathing level. But what was unusual is that the sheathing was composed of gypsum wallboard, which is drywall, but it was on the exterior. So what we learned is that back in the day when some of those portables were built, because some of them were placed at Arlington High School originally and moved over to SVLC when Arlington High School opened, and some of them were not that old, been placed on the site. But there was a variety of construction techniques, and one of the worst ones that we found was the ones that had the drywall for sheathing instead of OSB or more substantial wood product. So where did we find mold? There was no weather barrier in the walls as well. So in some instances, we found mold directly behind the T111. In some instances, we found it throughout the drywall that was remaining, unless it was completely dissolved. In those situations, we found mold on insulation inside the wall. And in the most extreme cases, we found mold on the face, with outward facing face of the interior drywall. So the remediation for this is varied in the same way that the buildings are varied. In the most extreme case, we removed drywall from the interior of the building and replaced it. In many cases, we removed all of the insulation from the buildings and everything that comes before it. In some cases, we've removed the sheathing that was there. In all cases, we've removed the siding from the buildings as well. If you've been to the site, you can see they've been stripped. Many of them have been stripped. And we're in the process of rebuilding them right now. So that's the extent of the mold, but I'm going to take this is not wood. This is a cross-section of a hollow frame door, but beneath a wall, there's another piece of wood called a plate, a sill plate. And most of the dry rot that we found was in these sill plates at the bottom of the walls because the water dripped down and caused the dry rot to occur. And either the sill plate or some of the wood beneath it helps it help the building up. So that's being removed and replaced. So we know we can do this. We know we can repair these buildings and restore them to use. But what we need are two things, time and money. And what we need our contractor, Summit, to stay with us. I can tell you it was quite a discovery when we first started realizing the scope. And there was, it took us a while to wrap our heads around how we're going to approach this. We did come up with a plan. And the plan is to continue working with Summit to accomplish the repairs. And we also have with us Wrecking Ball Demolition, who removed the materials that had been affected by mold. Summit's removing the dry rot. And then we've got Terracon, which is a hazardous materials abatement company, to do an evaluation before and after to tell us what we need to get rid of and that the area is clear of mold when the restoration work is done. So we've been cleared on all the buildings. The mold has been removed from all the buildings. And they're going to return when we're done with construction to verify that there's no more mold extent. One of the things that we're also looking at is a place, temporary program housing. If these repairs were to continue beyond the start of school, what can we do? Where can we place the program so it can continue operating? That may not necessarily be a place as much as an idea. And I'll explain that with SVLC, the fundamental document for the services that are delivered to students are student learning plan. And that is flexible. It's highly flexible. But it is an agreement between the student's family and the district that services will be provided and how will they be provided. So we're looking at what can we do with that to provide a bridge until we can complete the work at SVLC. Apple ECAP is a little more complicated. We're still trying to understand what our contractual obligations are with Snohomish County. Terry Saunders and Carl Olson are working with Snohomish County and the State Department to try to nail down what those are. It's not simple, and they have pretty strict requirements for program start time and number of hours of participation. So what we think right now is this is going to cost an additional $750,000. So effectively doubling the cost of the initial upgrades that we were planning for. Right now, I think it's safe for us to say that we'll be completed by November 1st. I don't know that's going to be the actual date that we complete. We're trying to get it done more quickly than that. And we may have I may have something better to report to you at our next board meeting as well as far as timing goes. But what I don't want to do is create a false expectation that we're going to be done in time for September 3rd, the first day of school. Coming at this from a phased approach, and the phases are expressed by a group order and by order within that group. So P1, P3, and P11. P1 is the admin building at the school. P3 is the family room, or what will be a kindergarten classroom in the future. And P11 is the portable bathroom. We can't have any students on site without having the restroom facilities available. P1, that's the organizational center for the operation for the program. It's important for us to have that available for staff to work in and meet in. And P3 can provide a space for family meetings with students and families as well. That's why we identified those as priorities. P1 and P3 are close to being ready. They're putting the ramps on P1 today. The next order is group 2 is the portables associated with the Apple ECAP, the support Apple ECAP. Because there's what appears to be, and this was just intuitive when we established this order, was that there was not going to be a lot of flexibility from Snohomish County and the state as far as time for operating the program. And that's starting to bear out. They're not going to be flexible with us on that at all. Group 3 is the remaining portables in that order. And the idea is to work backwards into the campus from the parking area towards the back so we can block off areas that are still under construction and allow occupation, safe occupation by students and staff for the rest of the buildings that are complete. Yes.
Brian, have the materials and the classrooms themselves been stayed intact through this whole process?
Some of them have. There's 4 portable buildings where we've had to remove some interior drywall. The teaching materials are still in those spaces.
Okay.
The drywall has been removed and replaced. And that's the extent of the disruption inside of it.
But you feel the mitigation's been, those materials are safe, they're okay, okay,
And it's going to be confirmed again before we allow any.
Right. okay.
Any questions about the spaced approach?
Makes sense.
Do you have a kind of a guesstimate on how long each phase would take? Like you said, you're almost done with
More of a
one.
per building estimate. And the initial estimate from the contractor was 5 days. But we've challenged them to accelerate that. And what that means is more crew and more money.
That time equals money.
Yeah.
You just want them to do it right.
Quick, fast, cheap. Pick 2. We're quick and fast, right?
That's right.
Luckily, we've got the resources in the capital projects fund to do this. And we've had a track record with McGranahan of being very strategic with our bidding and able to achieve efficiencies, which means we've been able to get projects for less than what we thought they were originally going to cost. This is the outlier in that regard. So we do have a continuity of operations plan that allows us to use temporary measures if we're responding to a health and safety emergency. This is definitely a health and safety emergency. Health because of the mold and the structural instability caused by the dry rot, and safety is because of the dry rot as well. We don't want the buildings to fall down on anybody. So we're asking you to adopt Resolution 2512. The basic function of this resolution is to acknowledge that an emergency exists, and by that acknowledgement allows us to circumvent the standard bidding procedures, which can take months for us to get go through a bidding process. It can take up to a month at least to get that completed. So I know you guys don't see this usually. You see it when it comes to you in the form of a contract for your approval, but there's 3 months or more of work in front of that before it gets there. This allows us to get past that and get the work done more quickly. You see our regular bid process. We have to, anything in excess of $350,000, we have to go to bid. I'm expecting that the first change order that we get for this work is going to be around $615,000. So that's my request for you tonight. Any questions from you?
I just make a statement that I'm kind of glad that we were looking at, there was a necessity to make some changes, but I'm glad it was discovered over the summer, and knowing that there was more beneath the surface than what you expected. So I'm glad that we're attending to this. My kids went there as well, so my heart is very much, I live right behind SVLC, so it's near and dear to my heart, so I'm really glad. I feel your anxiety about this, but I'm happy you're gonna have great buildings when we're done.
Yeah, I mean, the silver lining in this is that we're going to have buildings that are going to be solid for at least 20 years, at least. My guess is they'll go for longer than that. It's basically a rebuilding of the exterior and underneath as well. And all of them will have a new roof at that point too.
Okay, so I'm just trying to do the timeline here. So November 1st is the completion. So then, like, what is the school thinking about when kids will be back in the buildings? Like, okay, so your phases, when each phase is done, after the completion, how quickly will students be back in the buildings, do you think?
We think honestly, we'll be ready to occupy fully by the end of October. But by the end of September. but I don't want to create, again, false expectations.
Right.
I think we've discovered all the bad things that we can. You
Yeah.
really, I mean, I try not to say things like that because it's kind of final in nature, but I also want to provide us enough room in case we do find something else, or we get thrown a curveball that we're not expecting right now. But November 1st for sure. September, by the end of September, likely no promises on that. And as we open classrooms, we can also, because we've got some flexibility with the student learning plan, we can adjust the amount of in-person contact. There also may be some temporary housing that we're attempting to secure in the event that we have to start, it would start after September 3rd. Let me talk about the timeline of the SVLC as well. The first week between September 3rd and September 9th is meetings with families. So we don't necessarily have to have a facility to do that. We've got the Washington room already reserved for the month of September and October to accommodate SVLC staff and programs so that if they need a place to meet, they can go in there for that. It's not very roomy, but we think we can do the student learning plans, at least the initial face-to-face meetings. We could also do that via Zoom as well, but it's more personal if we can meet face-to-face. We think that space will be adequate for that. So we've got a week there. And then a second week, I'm sorry, it's escaping me right now, but Carrie Marsh described the second week of school is, there's some more flexibility there as well. So really it's September 15th is the, I'm not going to say drop dead, but the timeline.
Campus date.
And that's where we might see some flex there in terms of scheduling. But I can't provide a response, a fully formed response to that right now because we may have some opportunity for temporary housing that is not, completely developed yet.
I mean, it's bittersweet. I appreciate the hard work that was done to find this, it's like, of course, you want to be thorough and have it last as long as possible into the future for future students. So, I mean, I do definitely appreciate that. I have 2 students at SVLC, middle schoolers, and I think that they're the age that went through, my kids was in kindergarten when COVID happened, right? So there's been a disruption in learning already. So that's I think that's on middle school parents' minds, is kind of like starting school again in an unusual way, but SVLC, we are resilient and we're flexible and it's a really awesome program. So we're balancing all of these things, right? And I think that any opportunity for in-person engagement is really important for all students. So I know that you guys are having those conversations and keeping all of that in mind as well.
So, we have parallel planning processes, like what happens if we can't occupy till November 1? What happens if we can occupy at the end of September? What happens if we can occupy before the end of September? Those are the different milestones we're looking at. And the one that has the greatest number of hard stops right now is currently Apple ECAP.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, keeping, as a priority, the contact in SVLC as well. It may not be what we're used to,
Right.
but there's going to be some.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Would the temporary housing be utilizing our own district resources, or would there be fees attached to that would have been included in the?
We don't have any, we don't have near enough space to provide that kind of access, that kind of housing. So it would be something outside, and it would be something that would be paid for from the capital projects fund.
We would lease for that period of risk.
Fortunately, we don't have any coverage through the risk management pool policy on this either.
Brian, for our online only kids that just come to SVLC to check in once a week, could there be an alternate location just for that activity?
Yeah, here in the Washington, right? So it's going to be some scheduling going on.
And is there plans to communicate to the families, like periodically, kind of the progress and the plans?
Yes. Yeah, that's primarily going to go through Carrie Marsh. The parents that are here tonight, they received an email from Carrie Marsh today. Carrie and Gary and I worked on creating that message with Carrie to send to families so that they would have a heads up at the same time that you guys. Yeah, I have scheduled meetings with Carrie as well, Carrie and Carrie. And just to provide them updates, they're weekly. If something is more emergent than that, then I'll be in touch with them sooner than that. We haven't defined an update cadence to families at this point, but it's on the radar.
I'd appreciate being in that email distribution list.
Okay.
I just want to know.
Do you guys receive the weekly?
From the principals,
Okay.
yeah, the school newsletters.
So resolution is a little bit more involved. What it's basically saying is a recognition that an emergency exists and that the board is utilizing statutory authority. We do have a policy that reflects this emergency power. And the emergency, the only thing that it results in is our ability to waive the public bidding process more quickly. It doesn't encompass any other kind of power.
Any more parts of your presentation?
No, that's all.
Move into the action portion. This is something that's on our list to approve. Do we have a motion to approve the adoption of resolution 2512 declaring an emergency?
Make a motion, we adopt resolution 2512 declaring an emergency waiving requirements from the RCWs.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Director Kelly and seconded by Director Knapp to approve the adoption of resolution 2512 declaring an emergency waiving requirements of RCWs in response to an emergency. Director Kelly.
Yes.
Director Watts.
Yes.
President Lemette. Yes. Director Knapp. Yes. The resolution is approved. Thank you.
Thanks. I'd like to add one more thing.
We'll allow it.
Harry Marsh is working to define a time for me to meet with the families and, how we accomplish that. We're going to provide an opportunity for more Q&A from them as well.
We appreciate that. There's nothing worse than just not knowing.
Yeah.
Because we imagine all the things as moms. Okay.
Thank you.
Brian. Next up is our first reading of board policies. We've got a whole section of them. The first one is 3206 pregnant and parenting students, then 5011 sexual harassment of district staff prohibited, and 5012 parental, family, or marital status and pregnancy-related conditions of staff. And we've got Dr. Sweeting pinch hitting for
Eric Young is not here tonight, so I'm not standing in for him. Before I start, I wanted to just mention that WASDA, the Washington State School Directors Association, has changed classifications of the policies of two classifications. I just want to say it publicly. So we used to have our policies that were categorized as essential. They are changing to be critical, which is all the same, but what that means is that if it's critical or what was essential, these things and those policies are required by state or federal law, or they're tied to funding eligibility. So that's why it would be critical. The next category used to be encouraged, but now it's changing to important. And those are policies that are not legally required, but they're supported by case law, audit findings, or best practice. And then the third category or classification is discretionary, it's not changing. And really discretionary means there's no legal mandate or liability, it's board-driven initiatives, those things. Okay, so the first one is it's a policy which is, make sure I got the right one here.
3206.
Yes, 3206. And the board actually retired this, but now it's actually coming back to be reinstated. And the reason for that is that changes in the law. So on January 9th, 2025, a federal district court issued an order to vacate the 2024 final rules that went into effect on August 1st. So all of this, to bring this back, is because we need to realign ourselves, our policy in this case with the 2020. So what it means is we have to enforce the Title IX provisions under what was in place in 2020. That's the whole purpose of this. So this first one, 3206, is a part of that.
And there's no changes to the actual wording.
Just bringing it back.
No, but they may have changed the classification. Gotta see if they did change the classification. You don't like to change it from either.
Oh, I see a tiny little bit of red.
Well, that's where they put it
Procedure.
in it's stayed as encouraged, but it really should be actually, now if it's encouraged, it should be important. So we'll have to note that change. It should be important. I mean, it's important.
And are there?
Right, it's
labeled,
labeled, yeah.
I think
Classified as
classified as important.
Did any of the RCWs change? Is there any revisions?
No, just
Of
adding
the
the,
original?
The procedure changed. for
no, the blue would have the,
procedure number
Yeah.
changed.
yeah, there is something in that the procedure is a different number. See at that one paragraph. And this is first reading, so it gives you an opportunity to look at it a bit more, and then Eric will be back. But it's a policy that we had originally, and now it's coming back. We retired it, and it's
And was just saying to telling us,
Yes.
okay.
because it must align now with 2020 Title IX. Okay, the next one is
418.
Actually, I have
on
my list is 5011.
5011, and this is sexual harassment of district staff prohibited. And this has a new definition of, if you go down a little bit further, as the term sexual harassment as defined. And this is coming back. Is this another one, Brenda, that's coming back? I think this is, this all has to do with the definition of what sexual harassment is. So go a little bit further. And it talks about, there's another, some more red, that right there, that it describes that the sex harassment will be, and there's a long list. And it includes these things that we had in originally, and those were taken out, now they're put back in. And I know that some board members had asked me about why does it say Boy Scouts of America Act? That is an actual act that is, it's referring to, that's not referring to the actual, like, which Boys and Girl Scouts, it's the Boy Scouts Act of that time. There's that one.
Next one, I have 50.
So that classification will need to change too.
Yeah,
It's essential, so it
I'll
needs to
be critical, be
critical.
changed.
Yeah, that change just happened in July.
Oh,
And so
okay.
these revisions were made prior to that, but we
Okay.
can update it
Yeah.
now while we're working on it.
Oh, okay, very good, thank you, Brenda. And the next one, which is 5012, this one, I believe, look at it here. This one was a retired, we retired it as a board, and now they're bringing it back based on the new law. And this is parental, family, and marital status, and pregnancy or related conditions of staff. And I believe, let's look if there's any red There's a little bit of red, it just has title change, and it does have the classification change to encourage. Oh, wait, should be,
It went from essential to encouraged. So
well, then it should be important.
They revised this one in April from essential to encouraged. So now we'll need to change encouraged to the new name.
To important.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, goodness.
Well,
Well, it's important.
it is important. There you go. So those are the ones that are related to. Okay.
Any other,
So
Notices,
3418
changes.
isn't on the,
it's on the next group.
oh, okay.
Okay, so 3418 is the next one. That's the response to student injury or illness.
Okay.
And now here you're subbing in for Carrie Henderson Burke,
Now I'm
Executive
here.
Director of Teaching and Learning.
Okay, so for this one, actually Carissa Kramer helped with checking this out. And she requested as our district nurse to have this statement put in there. And it's the statement that, you know, after we've gone through what we've done, when a student comes in and not feeling well, we've done what we do. We need to put into our policy that further medical attention in non-emergency cases is the responsibility of the parent or guardian. And part of this is because there's some clarity that needed to take place, a couple of incidents that what is our full responsibility as a district? Do as much as we can, and there's a line there, and then it's up to the parents. So that's what this is about.
And does this classification need to be
This would
updated
be
also?
Important.
Important.
So just now, as we come across
As
new
we do-
policy, as we adjust
Change.
policies, we'll change it, but we don't have to sweep through.
No, that'd be incredible.
We won't be here until really late and nobody wants to be
So
here.
as we come for the regular reviews, they're gonna be changed.
Okay,
Just know
Okay.
that. We're gonna learn a lot about encouraged and important and essential to critical.
Okay, and does that get you through all of your staffs?
Yes, it does.
Okay, moving right along. Any other questions about this response to injury? Okay, next one is 6,000, program planning, budget preparation, adoption, and implementation. We'd like to welcome back Gina Zutenhorst, our Executive Director of Financial Services. And there's some changes here.
So mainly this is around fund balance and a minimum fund balance policy. Took the opportunity though to move some things around as well so that it made more sense. And in the blue, you can see that values that guide budget decisions. That was also in the presentation that you just saw. So it just made more sense to move them. So they're moved. And then also a minor change on that one bullet that talks about the fund balance instead of maintain compliance as if that is a immutable law to that it's considered when you're deciding on your budget. And then we titled the section fund balance instead, it didn't have a title, so we put fund balance title on there. And we had talked earlier in another study session about reconsidering our fund balance policy and what it says, so that we can also be in compliance with it and align where our practices are at this time with our fund balance policy. So the language there describes what we're changing, proposing to change to would be a 3 to 5% as the range to be the target for fund balance, and we would not want to be any less than that. But you can see there what the language is changed to.
Any questions or changes suggested? I don't hear any changes suggested. What is this one? Is this important? Is this
Let's
encouraged?
see, this has gotta be.
Encouraged.
No, it's
So
important.
now it's what? Important? Very important. Thank you for your thoughtful revisions.
Yes.
Now we are gonna remember what's important. All right, that concludes all of our new business. That brings us to our informational items. We'll start with our superintendent report. Dr. Sweetie.
So I'd like to share that last week, for 3 days, I think it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we had about think 46 staff, could have been 47, but 46 that attended the Professional Learning Communities conference, which was in Seattle. And I talked to some teachers, I talked to administrators, and they loved it. They loved it. So we're gonna come back, and we have a workshop coming up this week in our own district one that we're gonna debrief and talk about what they've learned and how we're gonna apply that. The district values professional learning communities. It's in our strategic plan as a value. And it was really important. We have new staff that have come on board since as a whole district we've been trained. So it's been years. So it's a good refreshing time, and it was very inspirational. And the other thing is next week we have our board all-day workshop. It's on Monday from 9 to 4, and it's in the Lincoln Room upstairs. So that's next Monday. And welcome Maddie and Alex.
Thank you. Next up is our legislative update and discussion. Do you have anything for us?
Not much to add. Tomorrow, I'm going to try to attend Logan Andrus's, I think it's like a monthly meeting. It's Memorial Day and I'm not working, so I can attend that. So we'll see, and just give me a nice kind of reminders with looking at the budget with MSOCs and regionalization, just kind of, we sound like a broken record, I'm sure, to the legislature. They know that these are our priorities, but when you have, what did Gina say, the percentage of schools that are in that unsafe zone, if you will?
75%.
75% of the 295. That doesn't seem like a great number at all. And I did talk with one of our representatives, Clyde Shavers, and not a lot of great sentiment in terms of budget from Olympia. They're already tightening their purse strings. So if they're tightening, that means we're tightening because, we're just part of that pie. So we'll just kind of see where that goes. But yeah, be interested what Logan has to say tomorrow. And just kind of rolling in and seeing if we have opportunity just a reminder, because I haven't worked with Brenda on this, but whatever we can do then just to put out the bad signal to our legislators in the fall. It will be our bigger, or did we just come off the bigger session?
It's a small.
We've just had the big session, the longer, the biennium, yeah. So I think this would be a great time in the fall to include our legislators to come to our schools and see what's going well. And I think SBLC, when that's finished, I think that would be a feather in the cap to see how people came together and the money was there and resources, and we took care of it in a condensed time. So anyway, just extending that will be good to have our legislators in on the conversations of what's important to our district.
Thank you, Director Kelly. Next up is our comments from our board members. And I'm going to put our student advisors on the spot first off the bat. I like to hear from our student advisors. And I would hope that you have just a couple thoughts. Yes. So we'll start with our junior student advisor, Alex. Hi.
Hi. I just want to say how grateful I am for this opportunity. I worked in the school district now for 2 years, coming on 3 for being a junior. I've been able to see how much the district has changed the last few years, and I'm really excited to be part of that change.
Thank you. We're excited to have you on board. And student advisor, Maddie.
I'm also really grateful for this opportunity. I was never really into public speaking and being up on the spot, but this last year I was really getting into it, and I really wanted to start making a change and being a voice. So I'm really glad I got chosen for this, and I'm just excited to see the district and myself grow even more.
Thank you. So excited to have our student advisor. Director Nat, would you like to share any thoughts with us?
Just welcome to the new student advisors. I'm really excited to hear your perspectives and what's going on with you all, and your voices to share with us. It's really necessary and important for us to hear from you. So, and all the questions, because we have probably a lot of the same questions that you have as well. So I don't want you to feel like anything is too silly to ask. So we're just getting through the last of the summer here. Hang on to it.
Director Kelly, anything else to add?
I proceeded to sit through about 6 hours of vector training today.
Nice.
The highlight of that moment was when it came to McKinney-Vento. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I've had Brian here. And it's Brian, right? Yeah, Brian
Yep.
Lewis. Not Brian Lewis, Brian Long, a different hell. And Brian Longwood, he just shared so much insight and he's just so versed in not only McKinney-Vento, but of course, our CTE program and he has staff that he works with. But it brought back when I was watching the module, I was just like, oh my gosh, it just went a little deeper for me. So I appreciate my exposure as a board member, my experience as a teacher, taking these, and I just kind of nod my head. But I will say, it's not really a highlight. An epiphany for me was the module on youth suicide. And I would recommend that this be available to our parents. It is critical and not just we're some decision makers, and I'm personally a teacher and I'm a mother, but I think our parents absolutely need that script because the population from 8 to 10 suicides is rising. That blew me away. And middle school and high school, we know that, but 8 to 10 shocked me. It is a public health crisis. It's the second leading cause of adolescent death. So I think when parents hear that information, it's very pragmatic, it's very cut and dry, and kind of take out that emotion. But I think that's another part of this that is essential, that our community understand the criticalness of this. I've personally been affected by this. Still to this day, I'm affected. My child struggles. And I just want to get the message out there. I converse about it often because I normalize it. It needs to be understood how common this is. And I do appreciate our student advisors being involved in youth mental health programs and what we offer in the district. And I will plan to continue that again this year. But that was just of all the modules I've been doing for 4 years now, I was like, this was a new one. So if it's coming now, that just reminds us that it's important for all of us to understand it. So anyway, other than that, enjoying the last bit of summer. I think tomorrow's the highlight of the high. I don't know, maybe today was the high, but just getting a little bit by the lake or something if I can. But anyway, good to see you all.
Thank you. Your thoughts?
I was gonna get through this one without some tears in my eyes.
Sorry, I didn't.
I am just so excited for Maddie and Alex to join our team in 1 year on next Monday.
Yes.
When I was sworn in, and it's been the most rewarding, funnest year. I'm just so glad that I did it and will continue to do so. And I love this group of parents and staff that want to have better schools. And I want to thank the moms for supporting your daughters and the moms that are supporting their school. I hope you were relieved by the presentation and the promise of transparency of what's moving forward. And I love that you guys all got involved and are present and here. We need that. And we like the voices.
Thank you. Now you guys are gonna make me cry. I want to give a special shout out and thank you to Director Knapp, our Vice President of the board, for leading the meeting just a month ago when I was on vacation. I want to say thank you. Did an excellent job. I did watch the video and
Hold down the fort.
it's fun. If you're not doing anything, if you're doing dishes, it's great to listen to something. And it is.
Folding laundry, it's great.
Folding laundry, it's super great. So thank you very much for that. And I also want to echo everybody's sentiments about welcome Maddie and Alex to the school board student advisor role. We're very excited. And if you have any questions, please reach out. We're here to answer questions. You don't have to be scared to ask. And also very excited to have our full day workshop next Monday. Looking forward to getting some good conversations going And that leads me to explain that I have a senior this year, so I reserve the right to cry anytime I want. And he doesn't tell me anything that's going on. He doesn't really remember anything that's going on. So I'm counting on you guys to fill me in on anything school related. Like, I don't know, is there a football game?
Graduation ceremony.
Yeah, so.
Well, I guess I was wondering what I'm saying.
And so I want to remind everybody about our next meetings. We have next Monday at the district office upstairs in the Lincoln Room. And that's at 9 a.m. It's all day. And then our next regular board meeting is the following Monday after that, Monday, August 25th, right here in the boardroom, 6 p.m. So those are 2 important dates to put on your calendar. And if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second. It's been moved by Director Watts and seconded by Director Knapp to adjourn the meeting. Madam Clerk. Director Kelly.
Yes.
Director Watts.
Yes.
President Beck. Yes. Director Knapp.
Yay.
Yay, meeting's